They told me I'd rot in that cell. 18 years. 6,570 days of concrete and silence, and the smell of my own fear soaking into stone. They buried me alive and called it justice. But here's the thing about graves. Sometimes the dead come back. And when they do, they don't come back soft. I stood outside the glass tower in downtown Seattle, rain sliding down my jacket, like the city was crying for what was about to happen. The skyline glittered behind the storm, all sharp edges and empty promises. Beautiful. Cold. Just like the men who put me here. Well, there. Prison. That other life. My reflection stared back at me from the lobby window. Slate-gray eyes that had learned not to blink first. A jaw that had forgotten how to tremble. On dark hair cropped short because long hair was a liability when someone wanted to grab you in the dark. I looked older than 23. I looked like I'd survived something. Because I had. "You good, Ezra?" The voice crackled in my ear. Low, familiar, faintly amused. My handler. My only friend. The one person who believed me when I said I was innocent. "Yeah," I murmured, lips barely moving. The Bluetooth was hidden, but I still played it careful. 18 years in a cage taught me that. "I'm good, Nolan." Liar. I almost smiled. Almost. "You don't have to do this," Nolan said, quieter now. "We can go after them legally. Build a case. Do it clean." I pressed my palm against the glass. Cold bit into my skin. They didn't do it clean. Silence. Then, fair enough. I pulled my hand back and slipped through the revolving door. The Carver Group's lobby was all marble and arrogance. Chandeliers hung like frozen tears. Security stood stiff near the elevators, scanning IDs, playing pretend like this place wasn't built on blood money and broken boys. I knew better. I was the proof. The man at the desk looked up. Sharp suit, sharper smile. Beta. Harmless, except for the fact that he worked for them. "Can I help you?" "I have an appointment with Mr. Ashford," I said smoothly. My voice didn't shake. Couldn't afford it to. "Executive consultant meeting. 10 a.m. He tapped his screen, frowned, then nodded. "Name?" "Ezra Hale. Not my real name. Not anymore. That boy, Ezra Calloway, died in a prison yard when he was 16. This version of me? Clean record. Fake degree. Ironclad references. And a gift they'd never see coming. The beta printed my badge and waved me through. I clipped it on and headed for the elevator, heart steady, fingers loose. I'd practiced this. Walked through it 1,000 times in my head during those long nights when sleep was just another enemy. The elevator doors slid open, and I stepped inside, alone. 18th floor. That's where he worked. Cain Ashford, CEO, Alpha. The kind of man who wore power like cologne and never apologized for the people he crushed on his way up. He didn't remember me. Not yet. But he would. I leaned against the elevator wall and closed my eyes, letting my mind stretch outward. Just a little. Just enough. Telepathy. It started 5 years into my sentence. At first, I thought I was losing it. Hearing voices, fragments of thoughts that didn't belong to me, guards thinking about lunch, inmates planning violence, lawyers lying through their teeth. Then I learned to control it, shape it, use it. It wasn't strong enough to control someone, not completely. But it was enough to read them, to slip into their heads and pull out the truth like pulling a splinter from skin. And today? Today, I was going to pull out everything. The elevator chimed. I opened my eyes. 18th floor. Executive suite. I stepped out into a hallway that smelled like leather and expensive lies. A woman met me at the glass doors. Sleek blonde hair, tailored blazer, The kind of beta assistant who looked like she could file your taxes and bury a body in the same afternoon. "Mr. Hale?" she asked. "All business." "That's me." "Mr. Ashford is running a few minutes behind. You can wait in the conference room." She gestured down the hall. So I followed, boots silent on polished floors, gaze sweeping every corner, every camera, every exit. Old habits. The conference room was sterile. White walls, glass table, leather chairs that probably cost more than my first car, if I'd ever had one. I sat, and I waited. My fingers drummed once against the armrest before I forced them still. Control. Always control. That's what kept me alive. That's what made me dangerous. The door opened, and there he was, Cain Ashford, tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair swept back like he'd just stepped out of a magazine shoot. His scent hit me first, cedar and smoke, drenched in alpha pheromones that probably made every omega in a 10-mile radius go weak-kneed. Not me. Not anymore. His eyes were blue, cold, assessing. He didn't recognize me. Good. "Mr. Hale," he said, a voice smooth as silk over a knife. He extended a hand. I stood, took it. His grip was firm, confident. Mine was steady. "Thanks for meeting with me," I said, letting just enough politeness bleed through. Not too much. Enough to be professional. Not enough to seem weak. "Of course." He gestured for me to sit, then took the chair across from me, folding his hands on the table like we were about to negotiate a merger. In a way, we were. Just not the kind he thought. I let my mind reach out. Gentle, careful, like brushing fingertips across the surface of still water. His thoughts. Busy. Scattered. Something about a board meeting. A deal going south. An omega he'd scented last week at some gala. Pretty thing, he'd thought, but too needy. I pulled back before he felt the intrusion. "So," Cain said, leaning back slightly. "Ah, your firm comes highly recommended. What exactly can you do for us?" I smiled. Soft, controlled, lethal. "Mr. Ashford," I said quietly, "I can do things you didn't even know you needed." His brow lifted. Intrigued, I held his gaze, and deep in the back of my mind, behind walls he'd never break, I thought, "You have no idea who I am. But you will." His eyes narrowed, just slightly, like he was trying to figure out if I was cocky or competent. Spoiler, I was both. "Bold claim," Cain said, tilting his head. His scent thickened in the air between us, all alpha dominance and unspoken challenge. "Most consultants walk in here trying to kiss ass. You walk in like you own the room." I shrugged. "I don't do ass kissing. Waste of time. Yours and mine." A flicker of something crossed his face. Amusement, maybe, or irritation. So hard to tell with alphas like him. They wore their emotions like armor. "Fair enough." He leaned forward, elbows on the table, fingers steepled. "So tell me, Mr. Hale, what makes you think you know what we need?" I met his gaze, didn't blink. "Because I know what you don't need," I said. "Another yes man telling you everything's fine while your competitors eat your market share. Another strategy deck full of buzzwords and no backbone. Another person too scared to tell you the truth." His jaw tightened. Just a fraction. Good. I was getting under his skin. "And what truth is that?" he asked, voice dropping lower. I smiled, slow, deliberate. "That you're bleeding money on the Vancouver project. That your VP of operations is skimming funds through a shell company in Delaware. And that your biggest investor is about to pull out unless you clean house in the next 60 days. Silence. The kind that felt like the air before lightning. Cain's expression didn't change. But his scent did. Sharp. Focused. The kind of shift that happened when an alpha realized they weren't the only predator in the room. "How the hell do you know that?" he asked quietly. I tapped the side of my head. "I do my research." Not a lie, just incomplete. Because what I didn't say was that I'd been in his head 30 seconds ago, skimming his surface thoughts like flipping through a magazine. The Vancouver project had been right there, tangled up with stress and spreadsheets. The VP's name, Marcus Hale, no relation, had been a bitter aftertaste in his mind. And the investor? That one I'd pulled from Nolan's intel last week. But Cain didn't need to know that. He exhaled slowly, leaned back, studied me like I was a puzzle he didn't have all the pieces to yet. "You're either very good," he said, "or very dangerous. Why not both?" His lips twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. Then his phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it, frowned, and stood. "I need to take this," he said. 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere." "Wouldn't dream of it." He gave me one last look, long, assessing, like he was trying to memorize my face, and walked out. The door clicked shut behind him. I waited 3 seconds. Then I stood and moved to the window. Seattle spread out below me like a kingdom built on glass and greed. The Space Needle poked through the clouds in the distance. Ferries carved white lines across the gray water. Somewhere out there, a people were living normal lives, going to work, drinking overpriced coffee, complaining about traffic. They had no idea what monsters walked among them. I pressed my fingertips to the glass, feeling the cold seep through. 6,570 days. That's how long I'd been gone. How long they thought I was buried. Forgotten. But I remembered everything. I remembered the trial. The way Cain sat in the back row, arms crossed, face blank. He didn't testify. Didn't have to. His father did that. Charles Ashford. The man who owned half the city and all the judges that mattered. I remembered the verdict. Guilty. 18 years. No parole. I remembered the Omega next to me in the courtroom, my boyfriend, Theo, who'd looked at me with tears in his eyes and whispered, "I'm sorry." And then, never visited, never wrote, and never looked back. I remembered the first night in my cell, the cold, the fear, the way my body had started to go into heat 3 days later, and the guards had laughed while I curled up on the floor, shaking, burning, alone. I remembered learning to survive, and then learning to plan. My reflection stared back at me from the glass. Older, harder, alive. "Miss me?" I whispered to the city. The door opened behind me. I turned. Cain stepped back in, phone in hand, expression unreadable. "Change of plans," he said. "I want you to meet the executive team. Tonight. Dinner. 7 o'clock. I raised an eyebrow. That's fast. I don't waste time when I see potential. Potential. Right. Because that's all I was to him. A tool. An asset. Something to be used. Just like last time. 7 works, I said. Good. He crossed the room. Well, closer now. Close enough that his scent wrapped around me like smoke. "I'll send a car. I can drive." I insist. It wasn't a request. I held his gaze, let the silence stretch, let him think he'd won. Then I smiled. "Sure, 7 it is." He nodded, satisfied. But as he turned to leave, something shifted. A faint change in the air. A pull I hadn't felt in years. Scent recognition. My stomach dropped. No, not now, not yet. I clamped down on my pheromones, hard, the way I'd learned to in prison when hiding what you were meant, the difference between survival and becoming someone's property. But it was too late. Cain stopped in the doorway. Went very, very still. Then he turned. Slowly. his eyes locked on mine. And for the first time since I walked into this building, I saw something flicker across his face. Confusion, unsuspicion, recognition. "Do I know you?" he asked quietly. My heart slammed against my ribs, but my face stayed calm, smooth, empty. "No," I said. "You don't." He stared at me, long enough that I could feel his alpha instincts clawing at the edges of whatever wall he'd built around himself. Then he nodded. Once. "See you tonight, Mr. Hale." And he left. The door closed. I exhaled and let myself shake. Just once. "Nolan," I whispered into the Bluetooth. "Yeah? We've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" Nolan's voice sharpened in my ear. I turned away from the door, pacing to the window, then back. My hands curled into fists at my sides. The kind where he almost scented me. Almost? Almost. I bit out the word. I locked it down before he could place it. But he looked at me like he was trying to remember something. Nolan swore softly. "You think he knows?" "No, not yet." I pressed my palm against the back of my neck, feeling the phantom ache of a bond that never formed. But if I slip again, if my scent breaks through even for a second, then he'll know exactly who you are. Yeah. Silence stretched between us. I could practically hear Nolan thinking, running scenarios, calculating risks the way he always did. Former FBI, current vigilante. The only person who'd believed me when I said I didn't kill anyone. Because I didn't. But try telling that to a jury when the evidence was stacked 8 feet high and the prosecution had unlimited money. "You could walk away," Nolan said finally. "We have other angles, other ways to get to them." I laughed. Low. Bitter. "Gee, you know I'm not doing that." "I know. Doesn't mean I won't say it." "Appreciated." I exhaled slowly, forcing my heartbeat to steady. "I need you to dig deeper on Cain. Everything. Where he goes, who he sees, what he eats for breakfast. If there's something in his past that connects back to what happened, I need to know." "Already on it," keys clacked in the background. "But Ezra, if you're going to that dinner tonight, you need to be careful. These aren't just corporate alphas. They're the ones who put you away. They won't hesitate to do it again if they figure out who you are. Good thing I'm not planning to give them the chance." "Cocky bastard." "You love it," he snorted. "I'll have updated intel by 6. Don't do anything stupid before then." "Define stupid." "Ezra." "Fine. I'll behave." I paused. "Sure, mostly." The line clicked off. I pulled the earpiece out and slipped it into my pocket, then stood there in the empty conference room, staring at the door Cain had walked through. "Do I know you?" The question echoed in my head like a ghost. He didn't know me. Not really. The boy he'd helped destroy was skinny, terrified, barely 18. I'd been soft back then, naive. I'd believed in things like justice and truth, and the idea that good people won in the end. Prison had beaten that out of me. Now? Now I was lean muscle and scar tissue. Now I knew how to move through a room without being seen, how to lie without flinching, how to make people believe whatever I wanted them to believe. Now I was dangerous, and Cain Ashford had no idea what was coming for him. I left the building 20 minutes later, badge returned, smile polite, every inch the professional consultant they thought I was. The rain had stopped. Seattle's streets gleamed wet under gray skies. I walked 3 blocks before ducking into a coffee shop, ordered an Americano I didn't want, and sat in the back corner where I could watch the door. Old habits. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Unknown. Car will pick you up at 6:45. Dress code. Business formal. Don't be late. I stared at it, then typed back. Me? I don't remember giving you my number. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Unknown. I have my ways. See you tonight, Mr. Hale. I should have been annoyed. Instead, I smiled. Because that meant Cain was already looking into me. Already trying to figure me out. Already curious. Good. Curiosity was a weapon, and I knew exactly how to use it. I spent the next few hours in a cheap motel on the edge of the city, the kind of place that didn't ask questions and took cash. Nolan had set it up for me. Fake name, fake ID, fake everything. Story of my life. I showered, changed into the one suit I owned, charcoal gray, tailored just enough to look expensive without being flashy. Checked my reflection in the mirror. I looked normal, human, like someone who hadn't spent 18 years learning how to survive in a cage. Funny how easy it was to lie with a face. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Nolan. A file download. I opened it. Subject: Cain Ashford. Extended profile. I scrolled through. Born into money. Took over his father's company at 25, after Charles Ashford died of a heart attack. Ruthless businessman. Philanthropist, on paper. I donated to Omega shelters and youth programs. Ironic. No mate, no bond. A string of short-term relationships with Omegas who never lasted more than a few months. Commitment issues. Or control issues. Probably both. I kept scrolling, and then I saw it. A photo, dated 7 years ago. Cain standing outside a courthouse, the same courthouse where I'd been sentenced. He looked younger, harder, his jaw tight, his eyes cold, and standing next to him. My breath caught. Theo, my ex. The Omega who'd promised to wait for me. Who'd looked at me with tears in his eyes and said he was sorry. He was standing next to Cain, smiling. I stared at the photo until my vision blurred. Then I closed the file, breathed, and let the fury settle into something colder, something patient. Because revenge wasn't a fire. It was ice. Oh, and I'd had 18 years to freeze. The car arrived at exactly 6:45. Black sedan, tinted windows. Driver in a suit who didn't say a word when I slid into the back seat. We drove through the city in silence. Past downtown, past the waterfront. Up into the hills where the houses got bigger and the gates got higher. Old money. The kind that didn't need to prove anything because everyone already knew. We turned into a private driveway. Trees lined the road like sentries. The house at the end was all glass and stone, perched on the edge of a cliff overlooking the Sound. Beautiful. Intimidating. Exactly what I expected. The car stopped. The driver got out and opened my door. I stepped onto the gravel driveway, adjusted my jacket, and looked up at the house. Warm light glowed from inside. I could hear voices, laughter, and my stomach twisted. But I walked forward anyway. The front door opened before I reached it. And there he was. Cain. In a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, hair slightly mussed like he'd run his hands through it, scent warm and overwhelming. He looked at me and smiled. "Mr. Hale," he said, "right on time." I smiled back. "Wouldn't want to keep you waiting." He stepped aside, gestured for me to enter. I walked past him, close enough to feel the heat of his body, close enough to catch the faint edge of something else in his scent. Curiosity? Suspicion? Interest? The door closed behind me, and I realized with a strange jolt of clarity that I'd just walked into the lion's den, unarmed, unafraid, and absolutely ready to burn it all down. "The others are in the dining room," Cain said, and his voice close behind me. But first, a drink? I turned to face him. The entryway was all marble and mood lighting, a chandelier hanging overhead like a crystal guillotine. Expensive art on the walls, the kind of place that whispered old money in every corner. "Whiskey," I said. "Neat." His eyebrow lifted. "Not wine? Do I look like a wine guy to you?" A smile ghosted across his lips. "No, I suppose you don't." He led me deeper into the house, past a living room with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the dark water below. The sound was a black mirror tonight, reflecting nothing but clouds and city lights. We stopped at a bar tucked into the corner of the room. Cain pulled out 2 crystal tumblers and poured amber liquid into each, with the kind of ease that came from practice. He handed me one. Our fingers brushed. And, for a split second, I felt it. A spark, a pull, something primal and omega in me that wanted to lean closer, breathe him in, let his scent wrap around me like safety. I crushed the feeling before it could take root. "Cheers," Cain said, lifting his glass. I clinked mine against his. "To new partnerships." "To potential," he corrected. We drank. The whiskey burned. Good. I needed the bite. Cain studied me over the rim of his glass. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone older, more corporate, definitely more deferential." I smirked. "Disappointed?" "Not at all." He set his glass down, leaning one hip against the bar. "Intrigued, actually. You're confident for a consultant." "Confidence comes from being right." "And you think you're right about us?" "I know I am." His gaze sharpened. That alpha focus that made most omegas drop their eyes and bare their necks. I held his stare. "Careful, Mr. Hale," he said softly. "Arrogance and confidence are separated by a very thin line." "Good thing I know which side I'm on." He laughed, low, genuine, like I'd surprised him. "I think I'm going to enjoy working with you," he said. "You won't." But I smiled instead. "Glad to hear it." Footsteps echoed from the hallway. Heavy, deliberate. Cain glanced toward the sound, his expression shifting into something more neutral. Professional. A man appeared in the doorway, tall, broad-shouldered, dirty blonde hair swept back, hazel eyes that scanned me like I was a threat before I'd even opened my mouth. Another alpha. His scent hit me next. Pine and leather. Sharp. Territorial. I knew him. Garrett Pierce, VP of Operations, and the one Cain suspected of embezzling. The one who'd testified at my trial, sat in that witness box and lied through his perfect teeth about seeing me near the scene of the crime. My stomach twisted, but my face stayed smooth. "Garrett," Cain said. "This is Ezra Hale, the consultant I mentioned." Garrett's gaze flicked over me, dismissive, cold. "Consultant," he repeated, like the word tasted bad. "We need a consultant now?" "We need fresh eyes," Cain said evenly. "Ezra comes highly recommended." "By who?" I stepped forward before Cain could answer. Extended my hand. "By people who don't like watching money disappear into offshore accounts." Garrett's jaw tightened, but he took my hand. His grip was hard. Too hard. Alpha posturing. I didn't flinch. "Careful," Garrett said quietly, leaning in just enough that his scent flooded my senses. "You're in a house full of alphas, Omega. Might want to watch your tone." Ah, so he'd scented me. I smiled. Slow. Dangerous. "And you're in a room with someone who knows where your money's hidden, Alpha," I said just as quietly. "Might want to watch yours." His eyes flashed. Cain cleared his throat. "Gentlemen, let's save the posturing for after dinner." Garrett released my hand, stepped back, but his gaze stayed locked on mine. "This should be interesting," he muttered. Then he turned and walked toward the dining room. I exhaled slowly. Cain was watching me, curious, assessing. "You don't back down easily," he said. "Not my style." "Good." He picked up his glass again. "Tea, because the people at this table will eat you alive if you show weakness." "Then I guess it's a good thing I'm not weak." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Come on," he said. "Let's eat." The dining room was as intimidating as the rest of the house. Long table, high-backed chairs, a chandelier that looked like it cost more than most people's cars. 4 men sat around the table. I recognized 3 of them. Garrett, already seated at the far end, still glaring at me like I'd kicked his dog. Next to him, a man with dark skin and sharp cheekbones. Marcus Lang, CFO. The one who'd signed off on the falsified financial records that buried my family's company. He smiled when he saw me. Polite, empty, and across from him. My breath caught. Theo. He looked older, softer around the edges. His honey-brown hair was longer now, tied back in a low ponytail. He wore a cream-colored sweater that made him look delicate, breakable. He'd always been good at that, looking innocent. His eyes met mine, and I watched the color drain from his face. "Everyone," Cade said, gesturing to me. "This is Ezra Hale. He'll be consulting with us over the next few months." Theo's lips parted, but no sound came out. I smiled and sat down directly across from him. "Nice to meet you all," I said smoothly. Marcus nodded. Garrett grunted. The 4th man, a beta I didn't recognize, offered a polite hello. But Theo just stared at me, like he'd seen a ghost. Good, because that's exactly what I was. Cain took the seat at the head of the table. A server appeared with wine. Plates were set down, and conversation started to flow around me. But I didn't hear any of it, because Theo's hands were shaking, and his scent, faint beneath the neutralizers he was wearing, smelled like fear. I picked up my fork and leaned forward just slightly. "Something wrong?" I asked softly. Theo flinched. "No," he whispered. I'm fine." "You sure? You look like you've seen a ghost." His eyes darted to mine, wide, terrified. "I don't—" He swallowed hard. "Do I know you?" I tilted my head, let the silence stretch, then smiled. "No," I said. "I don't think so." But the way his hands trembled said otherwise, and I realized, with a cold thrill running down my spine, that tonight was going to be even more fun than I'd thought. Theo's fork clattered against his plate. Everyone looked. "Sorry," he breathed, picking it up with trembling fingers. "I'm sorry. I'm not feeling well." Cain frowned. "Do you need to step out?" No, I'm fine." But his voice cracked on the last word. I took a sip of wine, watching him over the rim of my glass. His scent was bleeding through now, sharp and sour with panic. The neutralizers weren't strong enough to hide it. Good. Let him squirm. Marcus cleared his throat, drawing attention away from Theo with the smoothness of someone who'd spent years managing boardrooms. "So, Mr. Hale, Cain mentioned you have some concerns about our financial structure. Care to elaborate?" I set my glass down, leaned back in my chair, let my gaze sweep the table. 4 alphas, 1 omega, and me. "Your Vancouver project is hemorrhaging cash," I said simply. $3 million over budget in 6 months. And the construction delays aren't weather-related like your reports claim. They're intentional. Someone's padding the invoices and pocketing the difference. Silence. Garrett's jaw clenched. Marcus's expression stayed perfectly neutral. The beta, whose name I still didn't know, looked uncomfortable. Cain leaned forward. And you know this how? I read the contracts, cross-referenced them with your payment schedules, checked public records for the subcontractors you hired. I paused. 3 of them don't exist. Marcus blinked. That's not possible. I approved those contracts myself. Exactly. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Marcus's face hardened. Are you accusing me of something? I'm stating facts, I said calmly. What you do with them is up to you. This is bullshit, Garrett cut in, his voice rough. You walk in here with some half-baked theory and expect us to believe you over our own CFO? I turned to him, smiled. I don't expect you to believe anything. I expect you to look at the evidence and draw your own conclusions. Unless, of course, you have a reason not to want anyone looking too closely. His scent spiked. Aggression, barely controlled. Careful, Omega. Or what? I asked, keeping my tone light, almost playful. You'll make me disappear? That's a bold strategy. Worked so well last time. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Garrett's eyes narrowed. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Shit. I felt Theo's gaze burning into me. Felt Cain's attention sharpen like a blade. I forced a laugh. I mean, it didn't work for Enron or any of the other companies who thought they could bury their problems. Smooth. Not great, but enough. Garrett didn't look convinced. But Cain spoke before he could press further. Enough. His voice cut through the tension like a knife. Ezra's here to help us, not to point fingers. If there's an issue with the Vancouver project, we'll investigate. Quietly. Internally. And if I find something, I asked, then we deal with it. His gaze locked on mine. Appropriately. I nodded. Fair enough. But beneath the table, my hands were fists, because I'd almost blown it. Almost let 18 years of rage slip through the cracks in my control. I couldn't afford that. Not yet. Dinner continued. Conversation shifted to safer topics. Market trends, expansion plans, the new Omega housing initiative Cain was funding. I listened, smiled when appropriate, asked smart questions, and the whole time I felt Theo watching me. He barely touched his food, barely spoke, just sat there, pale and shaking, like he was holding himself together with spit and denial. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. When the servers came to clear the plates, Cain stood. Let's move to the study, more comfortable. The others rose. I followed. But as I passed Theo's chair, I paused, leaned down, close enough that only he could hear. You look like you've seen a ghost, I whispered. Should I be worried? His breath hitched. I don't know you, he said, voice barely audible. No, I agreed. You don't. I straightened, walked away, left him sitting there, drowning. The study was smaller than I expected. Leather couches, a fireplace crackling with real wood, bookshelves that actually looked red. Cain poured drinks. Everyone settled into seats. I chose the armchair closest to the fire. Warm, visible, non-threatening. So, Marcus said, swirling whiskey in his glass, you really think someone's embezzling from us? I don't think. I know. And you'll prove it? That's what you're paying me for. He studied me. You're very confident for someone so young. Age has nothing to do with competence. True. He took a sip. But it has everything to do with experience. And experience teaches caution. You don't strike me as cautious. I'm cautious when it matters. And this doesn't matter? I met his gaze. I'm sitting in a room full of alphas who could break me in half without trying. Trust me, I'm being very cautious. A few of them laughed. Even Garrett cracked a smile. But Cain wasn't laughing. He was watching me. really watching, like he was trying to see beneath my skin. "You're not afraid of us," he said quietly. It wasn't a question. I shrugged. Should I be? Most Omegas are. I'm not most Omegas. Clearly. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. What made you that way? The question landed like a punch. I felt my pulse kick, felt the careful mask I'd built start to crack. What made you that way? Prison. Betrayal. 18 years of learning that fear was a luxury I couldn't afford. But I couldn't say that. So I smiled instead. Bad life choices and good survival instincts. Cain's eyes didn't leave mine. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Silence. Then Theo spoke. Ezra. His voice was hoarse, desperate. Can I talk to you? Privately? Every head turned toward him. He looked like he was about to shatter. Cain frowned. Theo, if you're not feeling well, I'm fine. Theo stood, swaying slightly. I need a minute. Please. I could have said no. Should have said no. But curiosity was a dangerous thing, and I wanted to hear what he had to say. Sure, I said, standing. Lead the way. Theo led me down a hallway, past closed doors and oil paintings. His steps were unsteady. His scent was a mess. He stopped at a door near the end, opened it. A bathroom. He stepped inside. I followed. He closed the door behind us, locked it, then turned to face me. And the look in his eyes, it was terror. Pure, absolute terror. It's you, he whispered. Oh God, it's really you. I leaned against the sink, crossed my arms. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't. His voice broke. Don't lie to me. I know it's you. Ezra Calloway. Hearing my real name out loud after all these years felt like a slap. I didn't move, didn't react, just waited. You're supposed to be in prison, Theo said, shaking. You're supposed to be buried, I finished. Yeah, I heard. How are you here? How are you? Alive? Free? Standing in front of you? I pushed off the sink, took a step closer. Turns out innocent people don't stay buried forever. His face crumpled. You weren't innocent. Wasn't I? They found evidence. Witnesses. Your DNA at the scene. Planted. Bought. Fabricated. I took another step. You know that. You've always known that. No. You stood there in that courtroom, I said softly. And you looked at me with tears in your eyes. You said you were sorry. And then you left. You never wrote. Never visited. Never looked back. I couldn't. Tears spilled down his cheeks. They told me if I contacted you, they'd what? He flinched. They'd hurt me. I stared at him. And then I laughed, cold, bitter. So you chose yourself. I was scared. So was I. Silence. Theo's shoulders shook. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what else to do. You could have told the truth. I didn't know the truth. Yes, you did. I leaned in close enough to see the guilt swimming in his eyes. You knew I didn't kill anyone. You knew I was set up. And you stayed quiet because it was easier. That's not fair. Fair? I smiled. You want to talk about fair? He backed up, hit the wall, and I realized, with a sick thrill, that I was scaring him. Good. What are you going to do? He whispered. I tilted my head. What do you think I'm going to do? Please don't hurt me. Hurt you? I echoed. Theo, I'm not going to hurt you. Relief flooded his face. I'm going to destroy you, I finished. All of you. His breath stopped, starting with Cain. Theo's face went white. You can't. He'll destroy you first. He can try. I stepped back, giving him space to breathe, to process, to realize just how thoroughly screwed he was. But unlike last time, I'm not some scared kid with no resources. I know exactly what I'm doing. Cain didn't. He swallowed hard. It wasn't him. It was his father. Charles was the one who paid off the witnesses, fabricated the evidence, I'd made sure the trial was a circus. I nodded. I know. But Cain sat in that courtroom and watched. He knew what his father was doing, and he did nothing. He was young. He didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice, Theo. I moved toward the door. You made yours. He made his. Now you both get to live with the consequences. I reached for the lock. Wait! Theo's voice cracked. What do you want from me? I paused, looked back at him over my shoulder. He looked so small, so broken. Nothing like the confident Omega I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. Prison changed me, but guilt had changed him too. I want you to stay quiet, I said simply. Don't tell Cain who I am. Don't tell anyone. Just sit there and watch while I take apart everything you helped them build. And if I don't? I smiled. Then I tell Cain about the messages you sent me the week before my arrest. The ones where you begged me to run. The ones that prove you knew I was being set up. His breath caught. You still have those? I have everything, Theo. Every text. Every voicemail. Every lie you told yourself to sleep at night. I unlocked the door. So yeah, stay quiet. Or don't. Either way, I win. I walked out. Left him standing there in the bathroom, drowning in 7 years of guilt. The hallway was empty, quiet. Just the muffled sound of voices from the study and the distant clink of glassware. I leaned against the wall, closing my eyes, letting the adrenaline bleed out of my system. That was stupid. Reckless. I'd just revealed myself to the one person who could blow this entire plan apart. But God, it felt good. Footsteps approached. Slow. Deliberate. I opened my eyes. Cain stood at the end of the hall, hands in his pockets, watching me with that same unreadable expression. Everything okay? He asked. Fine, I said. Theo just needed some air. He looked like he was going to pass out. He's dramatic like that. Cain's lips twitched. Almost a smile. You don't like him. I don't know him well enough to like or dislike him. But you have an opinion. I shrugged. I think he's the kind of Omega who's used to being protected, who expects alphas to fix his problems for him. And you're not? Not what? That kind of Omega. I met his gaze. Do I look like I need protection? He studied me for a long moment, then took a step closer. No. You look like you'd bite someone's hand off if they tried. Probably. Another step. That's refreshing. Glad I could entertain you. He stopped just in front of me, close enough that his scent wrapped around me like smoke. Cedar and something darker. Something that made my pulse kick despite every wall I'd built. You're not entertaining, he said quietly. You're unsettling. Good or bad? I haven't decided yet. Silence stretched between us, heavy, charged. I should have moved, should have put distance between us, but I didn't. You're staring, I said. You're still here. You're blocking my way. Am I? He glanced down the hall. Wide open. Empty. Looks clear to me. Smartass. I pushed off the wall. I should get back before your friends think I got lost. They're not my friends. His voice stopped me. They're business associates. There's a difference. I turned. Oh, what's the difference? Friends are people you trust. He looked at me. Really looked. Like he was trying to see past the mask I wore. Business associates are people you keep close because it's profitable, not because you like them. Sounds lonely. It is. The honesty in his voice surprised me. I tilted my head. Then why do it? Because it's safer than the alternative. He moved closer again, slow, careful, like approaching a skittish animal. People you trust can hurt you. People you keep at a distance can't. That's a sad way to live, says the man who walked into a boardroom full of alphas like he was ready for war. I smiled. Maybe I am. Maybe. His gaze dropped to my mouth, just for a second, then back up. Oh, or maybe you're just as lonely as I am, and you've gotten really good at hiding it. The words hit harder than they should have, because he was right. I was lonely. 18 years in a cell taught me how to survive alone, how to build walls so high no one could reach me, how to turn loneliness into armor. But armor was heavy, and I was so tired of carrying it. Ezra. My real name would have made me flinch, but he said my fake one, and somehow it still felt intimate. Yeah? Why do I feel like I know you? My heart stopped. You don't, I said. I know. He took another step. But it's there. This feeling. Like I've seen you before. Heard your voice. Smelled your scent. Alphas say that to every Omega. I don't. His voice dropped lower. Rougher. I don't say things I don't mean. I should have walked away. Should have laughed it off. Should have done anything except stand there and let him look at me like I was something rare. Something worth keeping. But I didn't. What do you want from me? I asked quietly. I don't know yet. He reached out. Slowly. Gave me time to pull away. I didn't. His fingers brushed my jaw. Gentle. Careful. My breath caught. But I want to find out, he murmured. His thumb traced my cheekbone. My pulse thundered in my ears. His scent thickened, wrapping around me, pulling at something deep and instinctive that I'd buried years ago. The part of me that wanted to be touched. Wanted to be seen. This is a bad idea, I whispered. Probably. You don't even know me. Then let me. God, I was supposed to hate him, supposed to take him apart piece by piece until there was nothing left. But standing here, with his hand on my face and his eyes searching mine like I was a puzzle he needed to solve, I felt something crack, something dangerous. A door opened down the hall. We both stepped back. Garrett emerged from the study, scowling. You two coming back or what? Cain's hand dropped, his expression smoothed into something professional. Distant. Yeah, he said. We're coming. Garrett disappeared back inside. I exhaled slowly. Cain looked at me one more time. We're not done talking. I didn't think we were. He almost smiled, then turned and walked back toward the study. I followed, but my hands were shaking, and I realized, with a sinking feeling in my chest, that I'd just made a terrible mistake. Because, for a moment there, I'd forgotten why I came here. I'd forgotten that Cain Ashford was my enemy, and I'd let him touch me like he wasn't. The study felt smaller when I walked back in, closer, like the walls had inched forward while I was gone. Or maybe it was just the weight of every eye on me. Garrett was back in his seat, jaw tight. Marcus looked mildly curious. The beta, whose name I still didn't know, was scrolling through his phone, oblivious. And Theo. Theo sat in the corner, pale and hollow-eyed, staring at nothing. Cain moved to the bar, poured himself another drink. His movements were controlled, precise. But I caught the slight tension in his shoulders. He felt it too. Whatever had just happened in that hallway. I took my seat by the fire, let the warmth seep into my skin. tried to ignore the way my pulse still hadn't settled. "So," Garrett said, breaking the silence. Are we done playing detective for the night?" I smiled. "Why? Worried I'll find something else?" His eyes flashed. "You've got a smart mouth, Omega. Someone should teach you when to shut it." "Garrett." Cain's voice cut through the room like a blade. "That's enough." "Is it?" Garrett leaned forward. "Because I'm starting to think our new friend here isn't what he seems." My stomach tightened, but I kept my face neutral, bored even. "And what do you think I am?" "A plant, a spy. Someone sent here to dig up dirt and sell it to our competitors." I laughed. "That's creative, but wrong." "Then prove it." "I don't have to prove anything to you." I leaned back in my chair. "I was hired by Cain. If he has doubts, he can fire me. But you?" I let my gaze drag over him slowly. Dismissive. "So you're just scared I'm going to find out what you've been hiding." Garrett's scent spiked. Rage barely leashed. He stood. So did I. "Sit down," Cain said. Not loud, but firm. The kind of voice that expected obedience. Garrett didn't sit. Neither did I. "You think you're clever," Garrett said, voice low and dangerous. "Walking in here with your accusations and your attitude, but you don't know who you're dealing with." "I know exactly who I'm dealing with." I took a step forward. "A man who's been skimming company funds for 2 years, who's got 3 offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and a mistress in Vancouver he's been paying off with stolen money. Should I keep going?" The room went silent. Garrett's face went red, then white. "That's a lie." "Is it?" I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, turned it toward him. Because I've got bank statements that say otherwise." He stared at the screen, at the numbers, at the proof. Then he lunged. Fast. Faster than I expected. His hand closed around my throat, slamming me back against the wall. The impact knocked the air from my lungs. "You little shit," he snarled, face inches from mine. "You think you can come in here and threaten me?" I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, but I could still think. And I reached out with my mind, slipped into his thoughts like sliding a knife between ribs. Panic, rage, fear. He knows. He knows everything. Have to shut him up. Have to. "Garrett!" Cain's voice roared. "Let him go! Now!" Garrett's grip tightened. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision. Then suddenly, he was gone. Ripped away. I gasped, sucking in air, hand flying to my throat. Cain had Garrett pinned against the opposite wall, forearm across his throat, face a mask of cold fury. "Touch him again," Cain said quietly, "and I will end you." Garrett struggled. "He's lying. He's telling the truth." Marcus stood, phone in hand, face grim. "I just pulled the files. It's all here. Every transaction, every transfer." Silence. Garrett went still. Cain released him, stepped back. "You're done," Cain said. "Security will escort you out. You have until morning to clear your office. After that, we're pressing charges." Garrett's face twisted. "You're going to believe some random Omega over me? After everything I've done for this company? You mean after everything you've stolen? I built this company with you." "No." Cain's voice was ice. "You betrayed it. Get out." For a moment, and I thought Garrett would fight, would argue, would do something stupid. But then his shoulders sagged, and he looked at me. "This isn't over," he said. I smiled, rubbed my throat. "Yeah, it is." He left. The door slammed behind him. The room exhaled. Marcus sank back into his chair. Jesus Christ. The beta looked like he might throw up. Theo hadn't moved, hadn't said a word. Cain turned to me. "Are you all right?" "Fine." My voice came out rough, hoarse. His jaw tightened. He crossed the room in 3 strides, hand reaching for my face. I flinched back. He froze. "I'm fine," I repeated. "Let me see." I said I'm fine. "Ezra." His voice gentled. "Let me see." I hesitated, then tilted my head back. His fingers brushed my throat. Featherlight, checking for damage. I felt his scent shift. Darker, protective. "He shouldn't have touched you," Cain said quietly. "But he did. And now he's gone." I met his eyes. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." His thumb traced the edge of a bruise forming on my neck. "No one touches what's mine." The words hung in the air. What's mine? I should have corrected him. Should have pulled away. But I didn't. "I'm not yours," I said softly. "Not yet." My breath caught. He stepped back, ran a hand through his hair. "I need to make some calls. Marcus, get legal on the line. I want everything documented." Marcus nodded, stood. "I'll handle it." He left. The beta scurried out after him. That left 3 of us. Me, Cain, Theo. Theo finally looked up. His eyes met mine, and I saw it. The moment he broke. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. For everything. For all of it." Cain frowned. "Theo, what?" "I knew," Theo said, voice shaking. "I knew Garrett was stealing. I knew Marcus was covering for him. I knew, and I didn't say anything because they told me if I did, they'd—" He choked on the words. "They'd hurt me." "Who?" Cain's voice sharpened. "Who told you that?" Theo's gaze stayed locked on mine. "Your father," he whispered. The room went cold. Cain went very, very still. "What?" "Charles." Theo stood, swaying. "He came to me 7 years ago. Told me if I ever spoke about what I knew, he'd make sure I disappeared. Just like he made Ezra Calloway disappear." My heart stopped. Cain turned to me, slowly. "Who the hell is Ezra Calloway?" Theo's face crumpled. "He is." And just like that, the world shattered. Cain stared at me, eyes wide, disbelieving. "That's impossible," he said. "Says Ezra Calloway is in prison. He was convicted of—" "A crime he didn't commit," Theo finished. "A crime your father framed him for." "No," Cain shook his head. "No, my father wouldn't. Your father destroyed him." Theo's voice broke. "And I let him. I watched it happen. And I did nothing because I was scared and selfish and—" "Stop." Cain held up a hand, looked at me. "Is this true?" I could have lied, should have lied. But I was so tired. Tired of hiding. Tired of pretending. Tired of wearing a face that wasn't mine. "Yeah," I said quietly. "It's true." Cain took a step back. You've been lying to me this whole time." "Yes." "You came here to, what? Destroy me? Ruin my company?" "Yes." His face hardened. "Get out." "Cain." I said, "Get out." His voice cracked. Raw. Wounded. "You lied to me. You manipulated me. You made me think—" He stopped. Swallowed. "Just go." I stood. Looked at him one last time. At the man who'd touched my face like I was something precious. Who'd defended me against Garrett. Who'd said what's mine like it was a promise. "For what it's worth," I said, "I didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did." "Yeah, it did." I walked to the door. Paused. "Your father took everything from me, Cain. My family. My freedom. 18 years of my life." I looked back. "So yeah, I came here for revenge. But somewhere along the way—" I stopped. Because finishing that sentence would have been the biggest mistake of all. "Somewhere along the way, what?" he asked. I shook my head. "Nothing. Forget it." And I left. The door closed behind me with a soft click that felt louder than a gunshot. I stood in the hallway, alone. The house suddenly too quiet, too big, too full of ghosts I'd thought I'd buried. My hands were shaking. I pressed them against my thighs, forcing them still. Get it together. But I couldn't, because the look on Cain's face when Theo said my name, that wasn't just anger. It was betrayal. It was hurt. And I'd put it there. I started walking. Down the hall. Past the art I didn't see, and the windows that showed nothing but darkness. My throat still ached where Garrett had grabbed me. My chest ached worse. I reached the front door. Stopped. What are you doing? I didn't know. I'd planned this for years. Every step, every move. Get close to them. Expose their crimes. Watch them fall apart. I'd succeeded. Garrett was done. Marcus would be next. Then the others. One by one, until there was nothing left of the empire Charles Ashford had built on lies and broken boys. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow. Ezra, Cain's voice. I closed my eyes, didn't turn around. I told you to leave, he said. I'm leaving. Then why are you still standing there? Good question. I opened my eyes, stared at the door. Because I'm trying to figure out if I just won or lost. Silence. Then footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming closer. He stopped behind me, close enough that I could feel the heat of him, smell cedar and smoke and something darker now, something wounded. You destroyed my VP, he said quietly. Exposed a 2-year embezzlement scheme. Made me question everyone I've worked with. And you did it all while pretending to be someone you're not. Yeah. So which is it? His voice was rough, strained. Did you win or lose? I turned. He stood there in the dim hallway light, tie loosened, shirt sleeves still rolled up, hair falling into his eyes. He looked tired. Human. Nothing like the untouchable alpha I'd built up in my head for 18 years. I don't know, I admitted. His jaw tightened. That's not good enough. It's all I've got. No. He stepped closer. What you've got is a vendetta, and I need to know where I fall in it. You were there, I said. In that courtroom. You sat there and watched your father destroy me, and you did nothing. I was 23 years old. So was I when I went to prison. I didn't know he was lying. Yes, you did. The words came out sharp, cutting. Ooh, maybe not the details, maybe not the how. But you knew something was wrong. You felt it. And you ignored it because it was easier. His face twisted. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? I moved closer, close enough to see the guilt swimming in his eyes. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you didn't have doubts. Tell me you looked at that evidence and thought, yeah, that 18-year-old Omega definitely murdered someone in cold blood. The DNA was planted. The witnesses were paid. The motive didn't exist. My voice cracked. I had nothing, no reason, no history of violence, no connection to the victim. But your father needed someone to blame, and I was convenient. Young, poor, Omega, easy to make disappear. Cain flinched. So, yeah, I continued, I came here for revenge. I came here to take apart everything he built, everything you inherited, because you don't deserve it. And what do I deserve? He asked quietly. I don't know. Liar. The word hit like a slap. You know exactly what you think I deserve, he said. You've had 18 years to decide, so tell me. I stared at him. At this man who'd touched my face with something close to tenderness, who'd defended me against Garrett, who'd looked at me like I mattered. I think you deserve the truth, I said finally. Which is? That your father was a monster, that he destroyed lives for profit, that he built this company on blood and bones and buried anyone who got in his way. I paused, and I think you know that. Deep down, you've always known. His breath caught. But you're not him, I continued. Too, and that's what makes this complicated. Complicated, he repeated, almost a laugh. That's one word for it. What would you call it? A disaster. He ran a hand through his hair. You lied to me, used me, made me. He stopped, shook his head. It doesn't matter. Made you what? Nothing. Cain, you made me care. The words exploded out of him, raw, unfiltered. You walked into my office with your smart mouth and your attitude, and I thought maybe. He turned away. God, I'm an idiot. My chest tightened. You're not an idiot. Then what am I? He looked back at me. Because right now I can't tell if I want to throw you out or... He stopped again, swallowed hard. Or what? His gaze locked on mine. And I saw it. The same pull I'd felt in the hallway. The same hunger. The same impossible. So irrational desire that had nothing to do with logic and everything to do with scent and instinct and something deeper. Or keep you, he finished quietly. The air between us charged. That's a bad idea, I said. Probably the worst I've ever had. I came here to destroy you. I know. I still might. I know that too. He took a step forward. So did I. We stood there, inches apart, close enough that I could feel his breath, see the conflict in his eyes, smell the shift in his scent from anger to something else, something that made my omega instincts scream. This doesn't change anything, I said. Doesn't it? No. Your father still ruined my life. You still stood by and let it happen. Revenge is still... Still what? His hand came up, cupped my jaw. Gentle, despite everything. Still worth it? I should have said yes. Should have pulled away. Should have remembered why I was here. But his thumb brushed my cheek, and my eyes fluttered closed, and for just a second, I let myself imagine what it would be like to not carry this weight. To not be Ezra Calloway, the boy who was buried alive. To just be Ezra, someone who could be touched without flinching, someone who could want something without it being a weapon. I don't know, I whispered. Then figure it out. His forehead pressed against mine. Because I need to know if you're my enemy or something else. My heart hammered. I can't be both? Not if you want me to trust you. And if I don't? Then leave. His hand dropped. Walk out that door. Finish whatever plan you have. Burn it all down. But don't... His voice roughened. Don't stand here and make me want you when you're just going to disappear. The words cut deeper than they should have. Because he was right. I was going to disappear. That was the plan. Expose them all, watch them crumble, then vanish before anyone could catch me. Clean. Simple. Safe. But nothing about this felt clean anymore. What if I told you, I said slowly, that I don't know how to be anything other than angry? Then I'd say you're lying. He stepped back, put space between us. Because the man who stood in that hallway with me wasn't angry. He was scared. My breath caught. Scared of what? Of wanting something you don't think you're allowed to have. Damn him. Damn him for seeing through me. You don't know me, I said. No, but I want to. He held my gaze. The real you. Not the consultant. Not the vengeful ghost. Just you. That person doesn't exist anymore. Then let me meet whoever's left. I stared at him. At this impossible, infuriating alpha who should have been easy to hate and wasn't. And if you don't like who that is, then at least I'll know the truth. Truth. That word again. I'd spent 18 years hiding from it, building walls around it, turning it into a weapon. But standing here, with Cain looking at me like I was something worth knowing, maybe the truth didn't have to be a weapon. Maybe it could be something else, something terrifying, something like hope. Okay, I said. His eyes widened. Okay? Yeah, I exhaled. But I'm not promising anything, and I'm still mad as hell. I wouldn't expect anything less. A smile tugged at my lips. Small, fragile, real. So what now? I asked. He considered. Now you tell me everything, the whole story. No lies, no games. And then we figure out what comes next. I nodded slowly. All right, but not here. Where? Somewhere neutral. Somewhere your father's ghost can't reach. Understanding flickered in his eyes. My place, he offered. Downtown. Just us. Just us, I repeated. Unless you'd rather. No, I cut him off. Just us is good. He pulled out his phone, sent a text. Car's coming. What about Theo? Cain glanced back toward the study. He can find his own way home. Right now. He looked at me. Right now, you're the only one who matters. The words settled in my chest. Heavy, dangerous, impossibly warm. You're going to regret this, I said. Maybe. He opened the front door. But I think I'd regret not trying more. The car pulled up. Sleek, black, anonymous. We got in, and as Seattle blurred past the windows, rain starting to fall again, I realized something. For the first time in 18 years, I wasn't sure what came next, and that scared me more than anything. Cain's apartment wasn't what I expected. No marble, no chandeliers, no ostentatious displays of wealth, just floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, worn leather furniture, and bookshelves crammed with actual books. It felt lived in, real, human. He locked the door behind us, tossed his keys on the counter, loosened his tie completely, and pulled it off. Drink? He asked. Water's fine. He raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. Grabbed 2 bottles from the fridge and handed me one. Our fingers brushed. Neither of us pulled away. So, he said, the whole story. I took a long drink, stalling, trying to figure out where to even start. I was 18, I began, freshman in college, dating Theo. My parents owned a small tech company. Nothing major, but it was ours. We were happy. Cain sat on the couch, gestured for me to continue. I stayed standing, needed the movement. Then your father made them an offer. Buy them out, fold their patents into his portfolio. They said no. I swallowed. 3 weeks later, one of his executives was found dead in our warehouse, and suddenly I was the primary suspect. But you weren't there. No, I was at a study group, had 6 witnesses. But somehow, my DNA was at the scene. My fingerprints on the murder weapon. On my car caught on camera leaving the area. All fabricated. All perfect. I turned to face him. Your father was thorough. He paid off the right people, intimidated the right witnesses. By the time the trial started, I didn't stand a chance. Cain's jaw clenched. And my mother? She didn't. She was already gone by then. I'd done my research. Cancer took her 2 years before, which meant there was no one to question him. No one to say, maybe we shouldn't destroy an 18-year-old's life. I should have. Yeah, you should have. The words hung between us. Heavy. True. But you didn't know, I continued. Not really. And I've spent 18 years hating you for it. Hating all of you. You had every right. Maybe. I set the water bottle down. But somewhere between walking into your office and standing in your hallway, I stopped seeing you as just Charles Ashford's son. His gaze lifted. What did you start seeing? Someone who's as trapped by his legacy as I was by that prison cell. Cain stood, crossed the space between us slowly. I'm not trapped anymore, he said quietly. My father's dead. The company is mine. I can make different choices. Can you? I already am. He reached out, touched my bruised throat with careful fingers. I could have sided with Garrett, could have thrown you out the moment Theo said your name. But I didn't. Why not? Because something in me recognized you. His hand slid up to cup my jaw. Not your face, not your name, but your scent, your eyes, the way you looked at me like I was something to overcome. My breath caught. Cain. I think I've been waiting for you, he continued, and I didn't even know it. That's the bond talking. Instinct, nothing real. Is it? His thumb traced my lower lip. Because it feels pretty damn real to me. I should have argued, should have pulled away. Instead, I leaned into his touch. This is insane, I whispered. Probably. I can't just forget. I'm not asking you to forget. He stepped closer, close enough that our chests almost touched. I'm asking you to let me make it right, however long it takes, whatever it costs. You can't fix the past. No, but I can give you a different future. The words broke something in me, something that had been holding on for 18 years. I don't know how to not be angry, I admitted. Then be angry. Scream at me. Hate me. Break things if you need to. His forehead pressed against mine. Just don't leave. Tears burned behind my eyes. I hadn't cried in prison. Hadn't let myself. Crying was weakness, and weakness got you killed. But here, in this quiet apartment, with rain streaking the windows, and this impossible alpha looking at me like I was something precious, I broke. He took everything, I choked out. My family, my future, my freedom. And I survived it. I survived all of it. But I don't. My voice cracked. I don't know how to let go. Then don't. Cain's arms wrapped around me, pulled me close. Hold on as long as you need to. I'm not going anywhere. I buried my face in his shoulder, breathed him in, let his scent wrap around me like safety, like home. And for the first time in 18 years, I let myself fall apart. And we ended up on the couch, me curled against his chest, his hand running through my hair. No words, just breath and heartbeat and the sound of rain against glass. I'm going to testify, I said finally, against all of them. Garrett, Marcus, everyone who knew what your father did. Good. And I'm going to make sure the world knows what he was. I'll help you. I lifted my head, looked at him. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. He brushed hair from my forehead. And because I need you to trust me, really trust me. That's going to take time. I've got time. I'm difficult. I've noticed. And sassy. That's my favorite part. I almost smiled. You're insane. About you? Yeah. His hand cupped my face. Is that okay? My heart did something complicated, and something that felt like hope and terror mixed together. Ask me again in 6 months, I said. Deal. He leaned down, stopped just before our lips touched. Can I kiss you? You're asking permission now? Always. Damn him. Damn him for being nothing like I expected. For being kind when I needed cruelty. For being patient when I needed reasons to hate him. Yeah, I whispered. You can kiss me. He did. Soft. Careful. Like I was something that might break. And maybe I was. But when I kissed him back, when I fisted my hands in his shirt and pulled him closer, I realized something. Broken things could be put back together. Not the same. Never the same. But whole again. Different. Stronger. His. And maybe that was okay. When we pulled apart, both breathing hard, Cain rested his forehead against mine. "Stay," he said. "Tonight, tomorrow, however long you need. And then we figure out the rest. Together. Together." The word settled in my chest. Foreign. Fragile. Perfect. "Okay," I said. His arms tightened around me, and as the city lights blurred through rain-soaked windows, as his scent wrapped around me like a promise, as my heart finally started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could have this, I let myself hope. For the first time in 18 years, I let myself hope. Epilogue beat. "Ezra?" Cain's voice was soft, sleepy. "Yeah? Thank you. For what?" "For coming back." I turned in his arms, met his eyes. "Thank you for giving me a reason to stay." He smiled and kissed me again, slow, sweet, like a promise, like a beginning. And somewhere in the space between revenge and forgiveness, between anger and hope, between the boy I was and the man I'd become, I finally found home. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. Hit subscribe. The next story drops soon.